Quite a shocking one this time as well. The South African Police Service, SAPS, has confirmed that the charred body found in cell 35 at the Mangwang Correctional Center has been identified. The body was used to fake the suicide of rapist and murderer Thabo Bester during his escape from prison in May 2022.
According to authorities, the body was identified following a direct match with the DNA of the deceased biological mother. The body has been identified as Katlego Mpolo, who had been missing for over a year, according to his family, who had last seen him in the beginning of March 2022. Joining us to discuss this further is Newsroom Africa journalist Linda Nisi, who spoke to Katlego's father, Bato. Good morning, Linda. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Really, I mean, the story as it develops, continues to be even more shocking every other day. You've been able to speak with the father of Katlego Mpolo. What was his reaction, to find out his son was dead? And of course, the son's body was used in the Thabo Bester escape.
It's quite difficult for the father, when you consider the kind of relationship that he had with his son, Katlego Bereng. What happened was when his mother was pregnant, they lost contact just 2 months into the pregnancy. And he was later reunited with Katlego, who was now a grown adult in 2018. So they've only had a few years to work on their relationship, really, and to try and make sure that everything was back in order. I mean, if you look at some of his Facebook posts, he speaks about how he loves his father and now has a deep connection with him. So hearing that, his body was used in this audacious escape really broke him. I mean, he speaks about how, he had to even break the news to his other children, speaking about how that was basically a difficult task. He was not really following the case, but he had noted the arrest. He had seen it in the media that Thabo Bester had been caught, but little did he know that his son's body was used in this prison escape. So he was really gutted, to know that there was such lawlessness, as he describes it, in our South African, criminal system.
All right. Well, the father, Bato Mpolo, said the family were concerned that Katlego had been missing for quite some time. How was his body linked to the Bester case?
So from the family side, what they're telling us, in fact, I had an opportunity to sit down with his inconsolable mother and grandmother yesterday, who both raised him. And what they're telling us is that he went missing during the Easter weekend in 2022. That's over a year ago, right? And they've been looking for him in all corners of Bloemfontein and the country. They opened a missing persons case as per South African law, taking, of course, a copy of his picture, as well as his, identity, giving them his name and all of that. But the search really yielded no results, and they were just continuing with the search as, little help came from the South African police. They say when they were called to do DNA tests just last week, they didn't know what it was for. Police just made contact with them and said, well, we want you to come and do these DNA tests on a body. And then they went. The first DNA test results came back and they were not done correctly. They were then called again to come and do these DNA tests. And it was later confirmed this past Saturday that, in fact, the body that was found in Thabo Bester's cell was that of Katlego Bereng. You remember there's a lot, there's a lot at play where this body is concerned. This is the body that was allegedly used and entered the prison gate, the high prison gate in Mangaung facility, and kept there for a few days before it was transported into Thabo Bester's cell. This is the body that was thought to be Thabo Bester when he died. But investigative work that was done by other journalists, as well as the police themselves, revealed that, in fact, Katlego was much shorter than Thabo Bester, and the DNA tests that were done on Thabo Bester's mother compared to that body of Katlego did not match, and that raised the alarm with officials that something is wrong here.
This is really, really shocking. I also want to talk about, you know, the part where I think I read this yesterday that the family wasn't even aware that he had passed. You know, and that is completely shocking. Is there any information as to how he even was he arrested for a crime initially? Was that something that led him to, you know, the prison? Is there any information, and will there be proper investigations now that the case has become public? What do you think would happen with this investigation concerning this particular family and this young man?
It's interesting that the family says, and the information that they're getting is that Katlego may have collapsed in town in Bloemfontein. This is in the Free State in South Africa. It's a province in South Africa. He may have collapsed there. He was taken to hospital where he lost a lot of blood and ultimately died from that. But that statement contradicts the autopsy report that has now been made public. The autopsy report reveals that Katlego in fact died of blunt force trauma to the head, and that he didn't in fact inhale any smoke, which then blows the cover on this alleged death of Thabo Besters. Because he did not inhale the smoke, it's highly unlikely that he died in that fire, right? Which then also raises questions around when he could have died. The autopsy report continues to reveal that some of his body parts had actually started to decompose. They were in their early stages of decomposition, which is another factor that really raises the eyebrow here. So investigations now point to the fact that there was indeed something that happened, but what the police are trying to ascertain now is whether or not Katlego was first killed to aid Thabo Bester's escape. So it's clear that the statement that police are giving to the family around him having collapsed is really not matching with the autopsy report. And the family is also saying that he was a well-known person. If he had collapsed in town, somebody would have known, somebody would have seen him, who knows him. He's well-known in Bloemfontein, so it would have been easy to identify him. What they're also questioning is the paper trail. Where is the paper trail that supports that he was taken to the hospital? And if he was taken to the hospital, which hospital was he taken in? Which doctor declared him dead? And which mortuary was he then kept in? Ultimately, who signed him out of that mortuary for him to end up in a prison cell?
Those are questions that are indeed begging for answers, and I'm sure that a lot will be revealed and a lot will unfold in the course of this particular story. I want to say thank you so much for joining us, Newsroom Africa journalist Linda Nisi. Thank you for being here on Breakfast Central.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.